Welcome to this episode of Comparison University, comparing more than two datasets. So we know that it's not always going to be as simple as comparing one dataset versus another, right? Oftentimes you work with multiple audience segments or multiple markets, and your analysis is going to be far more nuanced than that. So there's a couple of tools built into the data library here that help you perform your analysis when you're working with three or more data sets. And the first approach that we're going to look at is comparing one data set against a combination of all others. So if we go into our location folder here, right? If you operate in 5, 10, 20 different markets, it's not going to be feasible to do A versus B comparisons to understand what makes each market unique from every other market. But rather, what you might be interested in doing is understanding how one market is unique from all others combined. And to do that, all you have to do is hover over the data set that you want to isolate from the rest. Click this Venn diagram icon here on the right-hand side, which says compare to all others. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a comparison with, in this instance, the European data on one side. And on the other side of the comparison will be a combination of the data from North America and Australia. So essentially what we're doing here is we're comparing Europe against all the responses that aren't from Europe to understand what makes that particular audience unique from all others. So if we go ahead and click that, you'll see here that we're brought to the same screen that we're used to. But if we look at the two sides of our comparison here, we can see Europe on one side and not Europe on the other. And again, we're not seeing much here because we're working with such small data sets for the purposes of training. But with a few thousand words, you would certainly see some results here. So we can go ahead and we can save that comparison to our project. And if we go back into the data library, the other thing that I want to show you is heat maps. So heat maps is a really useful way to visualize the differences in your audience or in your market. So if we go into the age folder here, we can select our 5 age-based data sets. We can go to our action menu at the top of the screen and click generate heat map. And we can give that heat map a name. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing that the differences in each pair of data sets are being visualized for us. So what we see is that the yellow tiles, those represent the age groups that are most different based on the text responses that were analyzed. So perhaps unsurprisingly here, the 55 plus age group is most different from the 18 to 24 age group. Whereas on sort of the dark navy color here, the 35 to 44 year olds have the least differences to the 55 plus age group. And this is a really useful way for visualizing at a high level your target audiences or your competitors. And it's also a great tool for prioritizing where you focus additional efforts, right? In this instance, maybe you're not too concerned with the age groups that have a lot in common, but you are really interested in understanding sort of the difference between your older, more mature consumers and your younger consumers. So what we can do is we can click in here and click view to actually be brought into that comparison. So heat maps function both as a top-line visual tool that's useful in its own right and certainly can be shared with stakeholders, but it's also a tool for prioritizing which comparisons you want to spend your time analyzing in greater detail. And for more information on heat maps, go to support.relativeinsight.com, search for heat maps, and you'll find all the information that you need there.